Hey, Dr. Yates here, and today I want to share a very important story about cookies. And this is going to help with your hormones significantly, so stay with me here. Okay, I want you to imagine that you have a job and you are a taste tester at a cookie factory. It would be an amazing job. The chef brings out a plate of cookies, you eat it, and you're like, they're all right, kind of bland. For this particular recipe, you need to add 1 pound of sugar. And the chef's like, oh, okay. So he heads back to the kitchen. He comes back out 10 minutes later because he's a super fast chef. And he hands you the next batch of cookies for you to taste test. And you test it and you're like, oh, these are absolutely awful. What did you do? Did you put in a pound of sugar? And he's like, no, I added a pound of salt. And you're like, what? And he's like, well, I checked. The recipe says that cookies also need salt. They should have salt. So I added a pound of salt instead. And you're like, we don't need salt. We need a pound of sugar. Go back and make another one. So he comes back from the kitchen another 15 minutes later, hands you the cookies, and you take a bite, and you're like, oh, it's sweeter. And then you get this terrible aftertaste, and it's like sugar. And you're like, what did you do? This is awful. Did you add a pound of sugar? He's like, well, instead of sugar, I added a pound of aspartame instead. And you're like, no, we need to add sugar. And the aspartame and the side effects and the taste, everything's different. We're not getting the same effect that we're looking for. Go back to the kitchen. Please do what I asked. They go back one more time. They come back out with the cookies and they're like, here you go. Try these. You take a bite and it's still disgusting. They are sickly sweet at this point. You're like, did you add a pound of sugar? He's like, well, I added 5 pounds of sugar. I thought if a little bit was good, a lot would be a lot better. And while this seems like something that should never happen, in HRT it happens every damn day. So I've had so many clients that I've seen who've come to me from other practitioners or people that I've spoken with online, various forums, and they will say, HRT doesn't work, I've tried it. And every single time I see that, I always ask, what were your exact symptoms and what did they really give you? A lot of times when people in perimenopause, what they need is that 1 pound of sugar. And in this instance, we're talking about progesterone. They need progesterone. That is what low. But when they go and they get something, often they're given estrogen. It's like they're given salt instead of the sugar. And the estrogen throws the balance even further off. Sometimes, instead of being given the progesterone that they need, they're then given the synthetic progesterone. This is like the aspartame. There's a little bit of overlap, but there's so many differences and the effects are not the same. The synthetic progestins, instead of progesterone, it can make the sleep worse. It can make anxiety worse. It can make mood worse. There's some benefits, but not all of the benefits of real progesterone. And then the other time that you'll see is that instead of adding that 1 pound of sugar, they're putting in 5 pounds and they're just giving way too much progesterone right off the start. And like, oh, I tried progesterone before and I felt nauseous or I felt drowsy. It's because they were just giving you way too much as a starting dose. So the most important thing is that you need to be able to recognize the stage of perimenopause that you're in and then use the appropriate dose of the hormone that you need, progesterone, and then gradually build your levels up. If you want to know what stage of perimenopause that you are in right now, click the link below for our free staging guide, and I hope this was helpful.